So, Socorro, just confirming one more time, we are live.
It says we're live.
Yes. Okay, great. Well, hello, everyone. It is a beautiful Thursday morning, and we are here with Sustainable Brain, our weekly show on leadership and sustainability for ourselves and our businesses in leadership. And joining me today is Dr. Sunita. How are you, Dr. Sunita?
I am doing great. It is a beautiful day outside. I'm excited because we're starting a new week, and Stephanie just mentioned it's September already.
It's already going to be September, and I'm so glad. So let's move into our guest, Stephanie Kerr Ramirez. She is one of the owners of a State Farm agency here in San Antonio near 151, and she's a member of the West San Antonio Chamber of Commerce. How are you, Stephanie? Can you hear us? Oh, I think she's frozen.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll wait till it comes back, but just so we can continue, I thought when I woke up this morning and realized that Stephanie was going to be on the show, I just thought it was the perfect moment with everything that's happened with Hurricane Laura. Now that we know that it has made landfall in Louisiana, but here in San Antonio, I believe they said that we have about 5,000 people. Our neighbors from throughout Texas and Louisiana have come in, and they have been processed very quickly. You know, I'm sure for some they were standing in line for hours and hours, but they've done the best job that they can to accommodate our neighbors and keep them safe, at least for the next few days and until the storm passes. So it's been a scary time for a lot of folks.
It sure has. I know that the city has always been such a great host for individuals from Katrina to whatever happens around us. And again, San Antonio is just we're known for our ability to host people and, our small city environment. There's Stephanie's back on. There we go.
Great.
So sorry.
No, it's okay, Stephanie. Technology.
It's technology. That typical.
We were just saying how difficult it is, how many people have had such a hard time with this storm, and you would be somebody that we would call on because we've got to call our insurance agent. And I mean, that puts a lot of pressure. We're under stress, and then we're calling you to say, help, what do I do? I don't know where to go. How does that go for you in times like these?
It's unprecedented, and every hurricane season, actually, we go through our steps to start preparing into the hurricane season that starts in July as an organization. And then we look at where those storms track, and we're having our calls weeks in advance in preparation. One thing I can say for our company with State Farm is our claims team nationwide, they start preparing to mobilize. And the way they leverage us on the local level is when we have incidences in our own communities or like to our neighbors, over in Louisiana and parts of Texas, we're prepared that if we have evacuees coming into town, that they can come into our offices if they need assistance from a claims filing perspective, if they need to contact their existing agents. And we support our brother and sister agents in other states as well to ensure that if they have a disruption of business because their offices are decimated or out of commission, then there's always a place to come in, that we serve as that good neighbor for anybody, not just those in our own cities and towns.
Wow, that's got to be, you have to have a lot of training and definitely a lot of leadership in order to take that role as the lead agent in our city. Oh no, her internet is going down.
Well, and I think that that is just like when you can jump outside your own trials and be of service, even if it's for an hour, for a minute, to take a phone call from someone
Mhm.
that is having a challenge, it really provides immediate perspective. And one of the things we've talked about is how to, you know, the key to resilience is being able to jump outside of the perspective that's holding on to you.
Mhm.
Because the brain just loves fascinating on misery. It loves fascinating on, let me just sit here. It's like, I almost imagine the brain is like a baby. Have you ever seen a baby that's sitting in its poopy undies? And it
And
just
just
loves
being miserable.
it just loves to sit there and gosh, and just roll. The brain sometimes just loves to do that. Is woe is me, my life is so hard, and the
No
economy,
one's helping me.
no one's helping me, the economy's bad, my mother didn't love me enough, my father wasn't there, and it all goes, it spirals. But then,
Wow. And then do people find out, Dr. Shanita, that they're tapping into all these old memories in times of despair?
Christy, it happens so fast. It's not even at the level of your awareness. Sometimes you might catch a thought. Here Stephanie comes.
Okay. We'll get back on our thought because that was a good direction we were heading. Sorry, Stephanie. We were talking about how when you're in the midst of something like this, like a storm and all this stress, that you just people start to panic and all these old memories come up. But Dr. Sunita was saying, I lost my dog. My mom didn't love me. You know, they kicked me out of the house. And you're the one that's getting that phone call of that person in just spiraling. And you don't know all these things.
It's very true, though. We are that sponge. We absorb quite a bit, especially as in our role as agents, because we are geared and designed to work directly with people. And our people are people to us. They're our customers. We treat them like family. We treat them as that good neighbor. So we do carry a lot of their experiences and what they are going through along with us throughout our day. And it's just like anything else. When you get that pitcher of water, you have to dump it out sometimes and just kind of refill fresh. That's kind of the way I try to approach things, because I know that it's a very unique position that I sit in, that it's important to bring a lot of positivity and a lot of resilience to not just myself, but to my team, to make sure that they can weather anything that comes at them. And this is a year for that, to be sure. We've all been tested with technology, with
Yes.
The climate and the environment of things, not just in nature, but in society. And there's a lot of things that weigh very heavily on people. And I have found that it's very important to be able to process and think through those things. One thing that I do is I try to give myself a lot of white space, and that's where I will take time to pull away, to think, to have those moments where you think of creative solutions, because it's not business as usual. Everything has been disrupted. Our personal lives, our professional lives, everything that we are accustomed to and that we're familiar with has just been disconnected and scattered in a lot of ways. And it's almost like if you dropped a vase and it shattered, you don't put those pieces back together, right? But how do you go about getting another vase? And what does that vase look like? It's never going to look like that one that you had. But I think that's where the silver lining to these challenges of this environment is there's a lot of opportunity in adversity. And we have the ability to construct something maybe a little bit better in some ways. And we look for new ways, and ingenuity is born out of that. And I like to think of myself and for my team that we have an opportunity to help people in that process. If they have to rebuild, if they have to think about what that new future path looks like, how do they construct that? How do we fit in to help them? Because at the heart of what we do, it's all about planning. It's all about being prepared. And the storm is just one aspect of that. The weather, the catastrophe issues that have happened and are happening and will continue to happen. That's our time to shine. And my job is to make sure that my team is a direct reflection of what we are able to do, how we can do it, and how we can do it well.
So, Dr. Shanita, did you have a question for Stephanie?
I did, and I heard one of the first things that she does you know, in dealing with adversity or taking that phone call was, she said, white space. And that is really, that's so powerful. We've been talking about, Ms. Ramirez, we've been talking about taking a breath. We've been talking about pausing, just to be able to slow down the flight or fight response. So when you say white noise, it seems like you're just like taking a breath. Is that what you're doing? Just sort of calming down, or creating space from yourself from the situation. Do you actually walk away, or is it a mental thing that you're doing?
It's mostly a mental thing. It's very hard to walk away and go anywhere. So, you know, you only have so many places to go these days. But for me, it's a mental space to take. And I learned that from one of my supervisors that I've had the great fortune to learn from so many leaders in my career path. And my last supervisor that I had, she always talked up the white space. And at that time, I kind of thought, no, just do, right? You just keep going, keep doing, do more, push harder, move faster. And it's really from her that I learned about how critical it is to slow down, to speed up. And that allows you to really reset your pace so you can run your best race, and that you can put on the air mask first so that you can help others to the best of your ability. And that's a philosophy that I have really built my office on, and I instill with my team to ensure that they, that they can perform at their best and that they feel their best. Their well-being is incredibly important to me. It's important to me to know that they don't just have job satisfaction and perform well, but how are they coping with and dealing with things? Because, again, we're a people business, and it's important for me to know that they're dealing with things and handling things well. And because I've had the benefit of so much wonderful coaching, I try to pass that on so that they can become stronger, and it empowers them to be able to contribute their best to the office and really for themselves.
Right.
That's fantastic. And I think I have to ask you, Stephanie, how did you transition from the go to including white space in your schedule without guilt, without feeling like you were being less productive? What was that, maybe that brain switch for you?
Part of it was the pandemic. It really forced me to literally halt physically. But I think when I started to see the positive results from taking that beat to plan and think out a little bit better, and to really, it started with me putting my team ahead of myself. I go back to everything that we've been through this year as a brand new office. My team, for me, I've been in this industry for over 16 years, and I've worked in State Farm a very long time. And there are things that I've experienced, such as working from home as a working mom, that when we all were forced to shut down and come work from home, that were okay for me to transition back to. And I remembered seeing my team really struggle with, they're young ones, that they don't understand why mom has to stare at a computer and can't pick them up. And, that was really where I said, well, I really need to think about this, because I can either add to their stress, or I can find a way to help them work through this and make this manageable and almost bearable until we know, because we had no certainty of what was going to happen. So we just had to make the best of that situation. I can remember sitting down with a pen and a piece of paper, just writing ideas down, jotting down things that might work for them. I got with them each individually, and I said, what is important to you? And they all had some things that were the same. They all had some things that were a little bit different. And then I tried to really make everybody happy, which is, it's easier on a smaller team. I understand that not everybody has that luxury, and we're in a unique situation as an independent office. But it really took that to heart, because I wanted to make sure that we were always looking for solutions, and that my team felt and would believe that we were looking for solutions versus I'm looking for productivity out of you over, regardless of what's going on right now. And I just took a very realistic approach to that.
That's great. Dr. Sunitha?
I think if you listen to what she sat down with her team and asked them what's important, that's huge. And we've talked about this before. Servant leadership is going to move people. You're going to have, it's not just that you're going to get that employee to be more loyal, but they have buy-in we talked about buy-in. So I can see where Ms. Ramirez gets buy-in from her staff because she asked them, so what's important to you? And then making a decision and brainstorming from that. So there's a lot to be said, what she just talked about, as far as leadership, as far as, and it really, you can have a lot of staff. And then I think if you do have a big staff, meeting with your key leaders and then having them kind of trickle that down and do that kind of a thing with their team. So you can still have this huge trickle down effect where everybody feels included. And I love the fact that you are looking for solutions rather than focusing on the problem. And so that's hard. It's because we were just talking about the brain wants to focus on the comfort zone of the brain is what is not working and what's wrong with this situation. That's the wiring. So for Ms. Ramirez to stay, she literally halted. It takes a stop. Some of us are not as conscious of it, and some of us need to be conscious that it takes a literal stop. And she switched gears. So that's phenomenal. How, it sounds like you had mentors in your life because it's not a natural impulse to say, let's focus on solutions. Has that worked for you before? Did you learn that before? Did COVID teach you that? Because there's a lot of lessons in COVID.
I have absolutely had the benefit of a lot of incredible mentors and leaders, both in State Farm and I mean, all the way back to my parents. They had incredible work ethics with us growing up for my brother and I. And, it was always about making sure that when you have a job to do, you're going to get it done and you're going to get it done to the best of your ability. That core principle was a lot easier to build on when it came time to interact with leaders and to have the opportunity to connect with people and peers and ask for mentorship in my organization. So I'm definitely I'm a product of everybody who's had a hand in shaping me. It really comes from just being open to listening to their input, being coachable. I really learned about that in my last role with the company. And to be able to carry that forward, those are the pillars that I try to build my office on. And that's the environment that I want to foster for my team, because I think about what it did for me. 10 or 15 years ago, I probably would have, the sky is black, the world is falling apart, it's doom and gloom. I could easily get stuck there. But I've had some incredible opportunity to learn how to think through and push through anything that comes my way because of the coaching I've been fortunate enough to have from so many different leaders and mentors.
Christy.
Sorry, Dr. Sanito, go ahead.
I really do think there's something there. She said she asked for mentorship. So many business owners were like, I've got this. I can do this by myself because that's sort of the entrepreneurial pledge, right? Like if it's to be, it's up to me. And during this COVID time, we found that, we didn't know how to do what we needed to do. And so reaching out and asking, that's really important, is asking for mentorship and asking for coaching and then listening, shutting up and listening to what they recommend. I don't know about you, but it's always been hard for me.
So Stephanie, I want other people to understand, our audience. I mean, life is not perfect. We were there when you opened your location at 151 and very honored to be a part of that ribbon cutting. Tell us what's brought you through some of those tougher times. It may be family, and you mentioned your parents, but maybe if you could pick one very monumental moment that made a big difference in some of those tougher times as you were moving through your career.
I just remember, it feels like such a blur. I remember my brain sometimes thinks about the grand opening, and then within 3 weeks of that, not even 3 weeks, being closed. And I'll never forget closing my door that Friday and how it felt to lock the door and and take a box of things home to work from home, and just thinking, I just don't know how this is going to work. That was a really, really tough time for me. And I think really where I drew my strength from was in asking my team what they needed, because in listening to them, it really motivated me to remember that I needed to be strong, to set an example for them to follow, and for them to understand that we were going to get through everything together. And it kind of gave me that, here's what I believe in. I believe we'll overcome this. I believe we'll take this one day at a time. And the harder I had to fight to stay positive for them, the actually more genuinely positive I became. And I remember having a conversation with a leader in our organization on a particularly tough day for me in April, because now time wears you down, right? Time starts to kind of weigh on you a little bit. And he gave me a great pep talk. And again, it was about being vulnerable enough to say, this really has me down. This really has me concerned. Every single plan I had laid out for myself fell apart in a matter of weeks. My business plan, my events that I had scheduled, everything that I had been dreaming of and planning for since a whole year before had just been erased. And there were some times where I felt just really crushed. I mean, that's just the word for it. It felt devastating. But then I also began to realize that there are people in much more challenging situations. There were people dying. There were people ill. There were people losing people. And in the grand scheme of things, my challenges were going to be I was going to be able to overcome that. And some things, some people weren't. So I just tried to focus on everything that I had in front of me. I tried to leverage all the resources. And two books that I actually read a couple of years ago, one was called Ego is the Enemy, and the other one was called Change Your Questions, Change Your Life. And again, these were part of the self-development journey I went on with my last supervisor. I really leaned heavily on the principles from those two books that I read, because you're right, entrepreneurs say, I can do this, no one can do it better than I can. It's about me, it's about trying to do it, and you can't, not all the time. And you can't do it well all the time. There are times where you have to put those pieces aside in order to think clearly and kind of compartmentalize some of the emotional feelings that can cloud the logic and the judgment that might be needed in a situation.
That's fantastic. I mean, don't you think so, Dr. Sunita, that really we can draw from this information and from the knowledge? That's exactly what we need to do, is be open to these things.
This is exactly what we've been talking about. So I really want to go back for a minute. I want you to get the visual. She opened 3 weeks ago at this time, and she now is standing at the door of her new office with a box full of things to take home so she can work from home. She's locking the door. I really, that resonated with me so much, Ms. Ramirez, because we had just got a bigger office. We went from 3 rooms to 7, and I signed this lease in September, October, and here we were in February panicking, like how, then March. I totally get that. Made my office, now we've got 4 rooms, we're back down. But what you said was, by asking your team, and you said, here's what I believe, and you went to your team and you had to be positive for them. So you're saying that in having to be positive for them, it made you raise your game. So we've been talking about when you can, find a way to be of service, what happens is the student becomes the teacher, and when the teacher arrives, he's the best student, right? Because now she has to master this. Because she's serving and taking care of somebody else, she raises her game because she's got to be better for them. So that what was it? What was the bridge? It was when she decided it's not about me, and she starts like, I gotta be about them, and the benefit ultimately is to her because she got better. And then now we're looking and saying, okay, how did you do that? The first step was, it's not about me. And, Christy, you and I talk about all the, like, okay, we're trying not to be kumbaya people. We're trying not to be, we could be accused of being hippies. I should have been born in the 60s, right? But the truth is, this is what the brain needs. I'm telling you, as a neuroscience doctor of psychology, get outside your own head, take a phone call, be of support to someone. And it's just as easy as walking to your fence and giving a meal to your neighbor, and that switches perspective. So it's a lot of what we've been talking about, Ms. Ramirez, so it's perfect.
Yeah. And Stephanie, I really appreciate your perspective on things, because I know you have, your staff is amazing. You have some great family support. You have young children at that, having to deal with that. I have a teenager and an adult son, and I know that's tough sometimes, just with those challenges. But you have to deal with things going on with people's needs and attending to your children at the same time as they go back to school. So it's really great to see how you pull from everything and everyone, and you're not afraid to do that outreach for yourself, because you know that essentially that feeds the soul, so we can continue moving forward.
Does. And when I see how hard my team works, one of my team members, she always says, nobody works harder than a working mom. And I think there's a lot of truth to that, because all of my team have children. They're all working through the challenges of going back to school. 2 of them have babies. And it always takes me right back to when my daughter was 1 and 2 years old, and how challenging it was to be a working mom and really understand what that entails. So I try to be as supportive as possible of them in any way that I can be, and they work hard for me. They do things that I couldn't be more proud of the team and what they do day in and day out. And they do it, again, not just for me, but I see them do it for themselves. I see them do it for our customers. I see them do it from a place of genuine care and sincerity. And it just makes me so proud of them, that no matter what happens this year, those ladies, my hat's off to them. And I couldn't ask for a better team of people to have in my corner. And that seeing them makes me feel unstoppable.
Absolutely. Well, and I think no matter, as going back to where we started this conversation, those people that call you and all these things are kind of creeping up, and they're thinking about old memories and, being abandoned and what have you, and you're there, you and your team are there, and you're creating a very safe space, not just because of your industry, but because that's what you truly want to translate to them. This is a safe space. We're going to work step by step. And then the resources you have probably really allows you to find solutions to other things. You're not required to do that, but if you can pick up the phone and call someone else, you can make that genuine connection to help with some other things. So
absolutely,
that's probably the best thing of all is your job as a professional and a leader in the community, making those things happen, and then being able to walk away at the end of the day and say, so I was at least able to help someone put their life back together.
And that's a trickle effect, because then in turn they get to help someone with their life. We get to change lives every day. And that's a big responsibility. It's a privilege to be in a position to do that. I always say we sit in a very unique spot in what we do through the State Farm Agency opportunity, and my team is 100% bought into that philosophy. And I remember each one that I interviewed, each candidate that I interviewed, we always had a discussion of that family first mentality. I'm invested in what's good for them, what's good for their families, because that's what's important to them. And we have led with that thought process from day one. And the pandemic really forced me to put my money where my mouth was, because I had told them back from November and December when we started, family first, we're built on these principles. And then when it came down to it, I said, well, you better deliver, because you told these people that was our philosophy. Now go out and live it, go out and execute it, because that's the expectation that I have laid as a leader. It's up to me now to make sure that I enforce that, and we move forward with that. So I put all my effort into living up to that promise.
Christy, I put this, this is such a great example. We've talked about this before. Can you see that? Most
Yes.
people think if I do what is like, if I do what a leader does, I will be a millionaire, and I will be, or I'll be a leader, right? If I do what a leader does, I'll be a leader, and I'll have what a leader has. And that's not how it works. Physics tells us, the law, just basic law of cause and effect, it works like this. Who you be organically will take action, will do, and then you'll have. You cannot do yourself into being. You're not a human doing, you're a human being. So what you're hearing from Miss Ramirez is she chose a different way to be, and then actions came organically. Sorry, that's my reminder. I gotta organically from that being. Does that make sense? Most of us as entrepreneurs, we're doing. But if we don't check in with what who we're being, the actions are not sustainable. Because we're being, if we're being defeated, or we're being small-minded, or we're being me focused, right? So Stephanie found actions with her staff. I mean, just sitting down with them and saying, this is what I believe and what's important to you. The being that she was came up with those actions. And a lot of us, because we're being, some would not have even thought of that. So it's really important to stop. Don't worry about what you're doing. Worry about who are you being, and take action from that.
Yes, absolutely. Well, Stephanie, thank you so much for being here with us and sharing your story. It's been very inspiring, and I love all the things that you've been saying. It just proves that, I mean, you're right on track. You are being, and you are doing. You are on this very progressive path, and creating new leaders, which are those members of your team. So is there something that you'd like to leave our audience with? Maybe a little something, or a little message, something that you'd like for them to know?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for the opportunity to share today. You know, I'm just in my little corner of the world trying to do what I'm trying to do. So to have the opportunity to speak on it, and to really praise my team publicly is nice. That makes me feel good to be able to really share that it's not just me as a person, it's really what they do behind me. I can't even sit here and have this interview without them, you know, taking care of things that I need them to take care of. So I'm grateful to them. I'm super grateful to my family, first and foremost. They're always my cheerleaders, so supportive in our corner. And my heart and prayers just go out to everybody that's in the path of Laura. And we want people to know that if they need help, if they need assistance, if they just need a point in the right direction or a cup of coffee, we're here and we're available, and we're ready to assist in any way that we can to make this just a little bit easier.
That's beautiful. Thank you. Thank you so much. And Dr. Sunita, so our takeaway from today's session?
Check in on who you're being, and then take action from that. Until you're conscious of who you're being, your actions may not align with what you want. So I don't know if that makes a lot of sense. I'm trying, maybe too philosophical, but we should talk more about that. I've got to get on a call. I've got an amazing family I'm helping. I'm going to sign out. It's so great to be part of this. I will talk to you guys later.
No, thank you very much. And thank you to everyone out there. We appreciate you joining us today. Don't forget, we do this session every Thursday at 12:15. Apologies that we started late with technical issues. We got online as quickly as we could. Next week, we are going to have the owner, an African-American woman owner. She is Margaret Wilson Anaglia, and we are so honored to have her as next week's guest. Please join us for the next Sustainable Brain. Take care of one another, and we'll see you all very soon from the West San Antonio Chamber of Commerce. I'm Christy Villanueva. Bye-bye.